Welcome to the Ali Maz Show, where we focus on human being and spiritual living with a deep inclination for the divine. Together, we delve into the seen and the unseen. We explore what it means to be well and whole from the inside out. Over the last 17 years, I've been focused on how movement, breath, and the power of the mind can liberate us from the template of our conditioning and carve a path to live a truly authentic life. My hope is that my guests will inspire and expand you to continue to choose the life that is yours. Today's guest is Erin Gilmore. Erin is a San Francisco-based movement, meditation, and breathwork teacher with a unique modern style, a love for nonviolent communication, and a specialty in trauma-informed yoga. A self-proclaimed cool mom of two, she is a beloved friend and known for her creativity, humor, and realness. Welcome to the podcast, Erin.
There is a question mark after cool mom.
You know,
it's like, I leave it up to you. Who am I to say?
I think you are a cool mom. And we are also
Thank
here
you.
with your precious 3.5-week-old little baby girl, Willa.
Yeah, such a trip.
Did you know that was one of my baby names and you have stolen it?
No.
Yeah. Because my husband's name, what's my husband's name?
Billy.
Yeah, Billy. And then you're like, here's my daughter, Willa, Billy, all these names. I was like, that's every name I had on my list.
No.
But it's okay.
No, you can still use it. We can there'll be enough time apart. And also I was like, Willa is so unique. And now so many people are like, that's my sister's name. That's my daughter's name. That's my dog's name. That's my teacher's name. I'm like,
it's always how it goes. I think it's such a beautiful name. And I think she is so beautiful. And just looking at her little face. And
we had such a hard time naming her. I was like, yeah, we went home for a whole entire week without naming her because I was like, I hate my name. And I so badly want her to like me. I got my nails done. I dyed my hair before, I did so much before the birth. They can't see you. They see in grayscale, like their vision's blurred. And I was like, hi.
Oh my God. You would. I love this. I love this for you.
I've been so looking forward to this.
You're in like some cool outfit, like cool music's playing. You're just like, oh my God.
My platform docs on, and I'm like, what are these? Do you like them? Yeah, no, I was just like, I need her to be able to have options in case she doesn't like it. And I'm going to be such a cool mom. I'm going to be like, sure. You want to go by your middle name? You want a different name? Oh, great.
Yeah. I read your newsletter about this because your name is Erin Patricia. Is this correct? Yeah. And you didn't want to give your child the same challenges. Maybe. I think it's a beautiful name for what it's worth, but I get that.
Do you?
I do.
Do you?
I do. I think you are so Erin to me and to the world, and you are so beloved.
That's like we're shopping together and I hold something up and you're like, oh, only you could pull that off. And it's hideous.
Okay, I want to hop into how we know each other because there's clearly a rapport here. We are friends. I think I'm your friend. Okay.
We are friends. We are friends. That's why I asked for no information about what we were doing this morning. And I was just like, sure. Yeah. Let's do it next week.
Full trust. Erin and I met 3 years ago in San Francisco, and I kind of love the genesis story of our friendship. Because
I did not like you.
Yeah. So let's start there. It's very rare for someone to dislike me. I'm just kidding. But yeah. So let's share with the audience.
And it's such an annoying story too, because you're like, I didn't even notice you didn't like me. And I didn't really feel much about you at all, which is like the most hateful thing you could possibly say to me. And I was like, she's mean girling me right now by being like aloof. Yeah. I was at
a studio, a company. Great. Yes.
I was working for this company, and I would like to say that I was their star.
You were.
And then And then you came along, and I imagined how my son feels about this baby. And I was telling Allie before we started recording, I watched him like make a fist and like involuntarily punch her. And that is like exactly how I felt about Allie. I was like watching her do her first like recording of her class, and I was just like sitting in the corner with two hands and fists, like, she's wonderful. And the founders of this company were like watching her like, oh my God, isn't she great? I'm like, she is. Wow.
Well,
We're so lucky to have her.
What's so amazing to me about this story is that you didn't know that I was coming or that I was joining the company, right? Which is wild, because usually you would tell someone that someone is getting hired. So when I met you, I had to like explain why I was there. And so I think that's what created immediate tension, because you were like, who are you?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, who are you?
Yeah. I was like, no one invited you. We're good.
Yeah.
We're full.
We're full.
We have a star.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like, by the end of that day though, there is a picture of us sitting there, because both of us were only supposed to be there for like an hour or two. We certainly weren't paid to be there all day.
No, we were not. But we sat there, I think, for like 5 hours, and
just sitting
and becoming friends. And in my mind, here's how I felt. I was like, okay, there's clearly a miscommunication, and this person, Erin Patricia, does not know who I am. This feels really uncomfortable for me. And so I just worked to sort of disarm and create connection. And I think what is important about this story is because female dynamics are interesting, right? And no matter if you have been, a yoga teacher, a spiritual teacher for over a decade, like both of us, there still is going to be there was just a little bit of that energy. And so I think we're a true success story where 2 stars can share the limelight. Yeah, we can share the limelight.
Yeah. And I didn't have to like Tanya Harding your knee.
Yeah. But you thought about it.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
No, I think the competition thing really, that hit a nerve, because I was like, she's been teaching for longer than me. She teaches teenage girls. She's recovering. She's me, but she's done all of the things that I've thought about doing and haven't actualized. It was so grating.
Well, as we progressed through those years at the company and went through so many things, and I know a lot of people probably want that tea, but this is not what this podcast is about.
We will not be spilling.
We will not be spilling. We might drop some hints, but what I learned from witnessing you, I mean, my job was basically, they were like, watch Erin and be like her. And I was like, okay, I can't be Erin. We all know that we can't be someone else, but there were certain things that you were doing in particular on camera, because I think, I know a lot of the listeners are likely teachers or yoga teachers. Being on camera is a whole different thing, with a whole production, a whole situation. And you are so natural and so comfortable and so funny and so real and so honest and so truthful. And I just was so struck by the possibility of being that. And I think I was doing kind of that somehow, but when I saw you, I was like, oh, she's upping the ante of the realness that is possible.
That's so funny to hear that. I can't tell you the amount of warmth you just filled my body with hearing you say that. So
see,
thank you.
We are friends. See,
that was wonderful. That felt like just it's getting into a hot tub. But I had the opposite experience where I was like, she's so professional. She's so polished. She says things and she lands the plane in a very prompt amount of time. Whereas I take a few detours and I forget what I'm talking about. And now we're talking about something else. She's just so concise and profound in these really digestible ways. Whereas mine's like like a dump of words. So I tried really hard for the first like month or two that I knew you to be more like you, and
Hmm.
was like, okay, for this class, I need to have like a phrase or a mantra or an affirmation or something like Allie does, and not just like word vomit onto these people.
But what's so
So I took that
interesting
from you.
But what's so interesting is that are opposites in the sense that I don't plan my classes at all.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
freestyling, and I have seen your templates, and I have seen you. I was like, oh gosh, she's really thinking about these classes, and I'm just up here like pulling stuff out of my ass. And so, I think also
Theme
as
wise, I don't plan,
yeah,
but movement
yeah,
wise, it's like I just planned my class for this evening, and there's so many time markers. Like
yeah.
at 26 seconds, we will hit that glute bridge pulse.
And as a dancer, it's something that I was like, your musicality and your ability to choreograph essentially around music and around movement. It was like nothing I had ever seen before.
That's so nice.
And I think it's also so cool because we don't really get the opportunity in this career to collaborate or almost like work alongside in a team in the way that we were
Yes.
doing. So it made me a
Yes.
better teacher being
Me
around
too.
such greatness.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. It did. It made you so much better.
it did.
Um,
It
that
did.
was that was my favorite part about being at the company. And when I was fired, um,
Bloop.
we're we, we're coming up on a year of being fired. I was very sincere in what made me feel so fulfilled by that experience. Those 3 years were the connections and the people and the friendships that I made were like none other. So that was totally worth any pain of the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm leaving LA, and I've been reflecting
Mm,
actually a lot on just the connections that I've made here. And to me, so many of my closest friendships are from that place. And
yeah.
when I left for many reasons, but it was something you said to me. And I don't know if you remember saying it,
Mm,
but we went for
yeah.
coffee, and you were like, when I see you teach or when I tune in, it's just like the magic's not there. It's just not you. And I was like, there's like nothing more striking than hearing that, because
Yeah.
authenticity is the most important thing to me. And to hear it from someone who is my friend, to hear it from someone I deeply respect and I know that knows me, I was like, I gotta go now. Like, not one more class.
And you had already been feeling it, but it was just kind of like a confirmation moment because like it just felt like watching like Tinkerbell in like the drawer. Like just like bonking around and like there was no sparkle, no spark, just like going through the motions. And I was like, because I would just go on your classes just for vibes. Like I wouldn't even do the class a lot of the time. I was like making dinner for Otis or something. And I would just hang out and like talk shit in the chat. And then I was like, oh no, she's not happy anymore. This isn't good.
No, no. And it was the best decision of my life. And I feel so
Yeah.
grateful to like be sitting here on the other side of it and being able to just have feeling so much more freedom and being myself again, and like returning back to my own self without a brand connected to it. And I felt that way many times in different places. I'm curious how the
Oh
last
yeah.
year has felt like for you. Um, you were pregnant most of the year. You have a
It
lot of
was.
life, so much life change happening.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Honestly, though, the way that relationship ended was so, with that company was so disappointing to me. So it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't a part of it anymore that hurt. It was more so the like disregard for my contributions to it
yeah.
and, and not being, loved well by people I considered friends. And that's always like a splash of cold water in your face when you're like, oh, okay, you don't. Are we friends? I guess not. So it had like reverberations through the year. Whereas if I think if it had been handled differently, um, maybe I would have walked away with less, I don't want to say damage because it's not that deep, but like I would have walked away like I didn't meditate for I didn't meditate, I didn't do breath work, I didn't do so many of these practices because of the association would like really hurt to like do these practices that I had been teaching with them. So I actually just was walking on the beach with her the other day, and I was listening to a breathwork playlist I had made, and I started doing a breathwork practice for the first time, holding like walking with her in Pacifica, and then I started crying. Obviously, it's like, why wouldn't you? Um, and it felt so good, and I was like, wow, it's been almost a year. Where obviously, and you can't do that active breathwork practice when you're pregnant anyways, so that was also part of it. But this year without that in my life has also been like a coming back to like, who am I without that pick me energy? Because I've never had that pick me energy in my career before.
Same.
And the doubt that I felt when I would send off these pieces of content that like I had labored over and re-recorded because I did all my own work in San Francisco, and the anxiety I would feel waiting for a response of like, you did it, or like, let's redo this one. And then I'm imagining in my head them being like, oh, she's terrible, oh, we should let her go, oh, we're paying her too much, like you make this what's the opposite of a fantasy? A nightmare. You live in this nightmare of what people must be saying about you. They hate you. So that has been really nice.
Yeah.
Losing that income wasn't nice, but gaining the inner compass connection again has been really nice, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yes, and trusting yourself. For me, it was like a journey back to my own self-esteem, because by the end I was like, am I an okay teacher? Am I good at this? Am I missing something? Like, is my voice must be so awful and grating for people, or I have nothing of value to say, or I didn't trust any of it anymore at all. And it was real, like I was down, 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 down in the dumps, questioning all of it after 15 years of teaching and what I would think is a successful career, someone at the top of her game. I was like, felt this big, teeny, teeny, tiny.
Yes. And like, no offense, but like, I don't actually care about that opinion of me, but it became my North Star.
Yes.
And like, whoops.
Totally.
Like, who are you to tell me? And who spent more time in those rooms with us but us? Mm-hmm. Who's more aware of our strengths and flaws but us? Painstakingly so, no one. Like, we are painfully aware of our strengths and where we could grow. And so to have someone be like, yeah, I guess that was okay, but you could do it more like this. I'm like, okay, sure.
It's interesting because when I look at the rage I had after and sort of during, I realized that I felt like I was pointing the finger. I'm mad at you. I'm mad at this person. I'm mad at this person. But I was really mad at myself. Totally. And I was mad at myself that I allowed those opinions to seep so deep within myself. I was mad at myself that I lost trust for myself, that I was shitting on myself, that I allowed it. I think that's really the process for me was like, oh, I wanted to keep going. I'm mad at them. And I went, oh, I'm mad at myself too. And I need to forgive myself. And that was a journey that took months and months and months. I feel like I'm just coming out of that.
Yeah. I mean, you've done a phenomenal job because you were so much more entrenched than I was. I don't live there. So I was alone a lot of the time. So it was just me and my demons, which, they're always here. And imagining what was being said about me rather than like being there, getting feedback directly. But I was in anger for so long, and I had like, I had dug my claws into like how it was handled. So it was like I could point to that and be like, how dare you disrespect me after all I've done for you? and like and really it was exactly what you're saying. It was just I've said this so many times in classes. Anyone who's been in my class is like, oh, is she gonna quote Glenn Doyle here? Is she gonna do that? Is when people say to you, they're like, you just need to be more confident, and you're like, I would love that, thank you. um, how? And she had defined confidence as being loyal to yourself. And that's how you gain more confidence, is refusing to abandon yourself. And I was like, now that makes the abstract actionable. That I can sometimes do. And I was not loyal to myself. And so that chips away. And for me, and I don't know if this is true for you, but one of I would say my deepest wound was not using my voice. And if I had only in that moment said no or used my voice to protect myself, what would my life be like? Mm-hmm. And maybe I wouldn't have that trauma, and it's all my fault, and I fucked up. And so when I find myself in positions, even with her birth, I didn't speak up for myself when I wanted, and when I could hear that inner voice going, no, 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 this is not what you want. This is not what you want. Mm-hmm. And you didn't listen. And then you're like swamped in regret. And it is so swampy, and it's so sticky and hard to work through and walk through. So I think that was also a big part of it, was that like, oh, you're learning that lesson that you didn't use your voice, and how awful that feels.
Yeah. Yeah, and here it is again, and here it is again, and here's so many opportunities to continue to use it. It's one thing to hear it. I mean, most people can't even hear it. It's one thing to hear it. It's one thing to take action on. And so you're sort of going through all of this. You're pregnant, and you've spoken about, and I've read a lot of your newsletters and your writing about the challenges of your pregnancy, and knowing that you're having a little girl, and the reflection of your own childhood and your own mother. And I'm curious if you would speak to a little bit of that, because I feel like so many people feel the same way, or are afraid that they will feel the same way.
Yeah, I really like, this is probably so like uncool of me, but I really did want to have the experience of raising a girl. So I was very excited. I tried to be neutral and like, it doesn't matter, gender is a construct. But I really did want to have a little girl. So I was so excited when I found out I was having a girl. And then I think like a couple weeks later, I was driving to work, and this thought occurred to me, that there'll be so many things that I can't protect her from, that women go through. And every time I think about it, I cry. It makes me so sad and scared and angry. And I focused on that for so much of my pregnancy. It took a lot of the like joy and like connection away, because I was just so like, the boogeyman was just so present of like, yeah, you won't be there to protect her. You won't be there to roar and use your voice for her. And in those moments where I don't use my own voice, then it was like doubled down on pain of like, you still can't even do it for yourself. How are you going to do it for her? So that was really challenging. And I was telling you before we started recording, like, I was also really scared because my relationship with my mom is hard. I love her, but like, there are a lot of times where I don't like her. And she would always say to me when I was younger, like, we are not friends. And I was like, yeah, girl, I know. My friends are nice to me. I got really scared, and that was part of the like I really want her to like me. And I was just so nervous that I was going to recreate this dynamic of not feeling loved in the way that I really need to be loved, in the way that I feel like I deserve to be loved. And I don't feel it from my mom. She does love me so much, but her love comes out as worry, and her love comes out as criticism. And it hurts. It really hurts. And I'm like, I'm turning 38 in a couple weeks. Like, when are you going to get over your mommy issues? Probably never. Probably never. But I've was so anxious with my son when he was born. I was like, oh my God, are you breathing? Are you okay? Am I doing this right? Am I good at this? So it was hard for me to enjoy it. But I really enjoyed my pregnancy with him. So I've had the opposite experience where like she's here and I'm fucking obsessed with her. Like I just like last night, I was like getting ready to put her down and we just like stared at each other and made noises at each other for like a half an hour. Just kept being like, I love you so much. You're the best. And it's really nice to have these moments in life where you're like, oh, it doesn't have to be that way. And you can like let it be different. And it doesn't even have to be a struggle. Like you can literally let it be different.
Yeah.
And that's been such a big theme for me with this like last 3 weeks is just letting it feel different, not contorting it, not manipulating it, just letting it flow out differently than it happened for me.
Yeah. And not allowing the past to sort of crowd over the experience of what's here and seeing what's in front of you and not letting the story, the narrative of this is how I felt and I don't want to do this to you, that you can actually say, I'm different. I'm doing this differently. And the work with our parents, I think, is never ending. It is the challenge and still, I just see so many friends and people, my brother included in this generation, that are just saying, I'm going to do it differently. And yeah, we're going to make mistakes, of course. It's not saying that, but it's the approach is different. And it's what makes me want to be a parent. And you know that I've been in and out with this decision and conversation for so long. And I really look to my friends that are doing it in a way that is inspiring to me. And you are a career woman, you work your ass off, you know, have 2 kids, and you know, and I know those things are not easy. But I love watching you do it in a way that I think I would do it. And
Thanks.
even right now, being on the podcast, her in your arms, like it's the little things to me that feel so inspiring. And I'm curious, and you've written a little bit about this too, and it's something that you and I have shared, you know, in our around body dysmorphia and disordered eating and our relationship to our body. And it is something that I think about too, and I know a lot of women do with pregnancy within your body changing. Where are you at with all of those things, and can you sort of explain what came up for you within pregnancy around your body? Because everyone's like, it's a miracle, it's this, it's that. And it certainly is. But when you're coming at it from a place of having a challenging relationship to body, what is pregnancy like?
Well, the first time I got pregnant was during the pandemic, and I was in such a bad place. Just total transparency here. I was drinking way too much, and drinking is not good for you, turns out. So I was a weight I wasn't comfortable at. I was really bloated. I wasn't, I don't want to say working my body, but I wasn't moving my body in a way that felt like care. I was either not at all or too much. And so when I got pregnant, I had this realization. It's like so dumb, but I was like, oh, you should probably take care of yourself now. You're a home to a life. And then it took me a second. And I was like, oops, you've always been a home to a life. You should always take care of yourself. And that was kind of sad. But I did. I started taking care of myself so much more. And I got in way better shape when I was pregnant with Otis. And when I had Otis, within 6 weeks, I was like back to like my very normal in shape body. That also has to do a lot with genetics. Like my mom's 6 feet tall and thin. Like it's a genetic thing. And then with Willa, I got pregnant and I was in what I liked. And I also say this too. I don't know if this has been your experience with having an eating disorder, but like I like to think sometimes that I'm healed, and really what it is that I'm in a body that I approve of. And so the voice is quiet. The negativity is quiet. The criticism is quiet. It's all quiet. But then as soon as the control feels like it's slipping, the voice is like, hey, girl, And I'm like, oh no, you were just napping, but you're still there. So it was really hard. I was so nauseous in my first trimester with her, and I couldn't work out. I couldn't move my body. I was like just living off of like Cheez-Its and like whatever I could possibly eat without wanting to throw up. So I gained a weight at a pace that I was not comfortable with. And then that just like sent me on this journey of like, I'm ruined. And not to throw my mom under the bus, but like part of like, that's part of her journey as well. And so she said some things to me that really stuck in an unfortunate way. She said that I have two older brothers, and she said her second and third pregnancies ruined her body. They stretched out her ribs and her hips, and the same thing's going to happen to you. And I'm the video model for this app, Down Dog. And she was like, well, they're not going to want to work with you anymore. What are you going to do to replace that income? And yeah, that's unfortunate. It's like, it sounds so psychotic that I laugh at all these comments, but I'm also like, what else do you do? Like, you know, at a certain point, like, what do you do? Just sit and cry? Or do you like laugh at the ridiculousness of it? I choose to laugh at it. Anyways, it was really challenging. I will be honest about that. I didn't love this pregnancy. I couldn't wait to have my body back. I couldn't wait to start working out the way I wanted to. I couldn't work out really these last two, I really want to stop saying working out. I couldn't move my body these last 2 months in a way that felt fulfilling for me. So it felt like a waiting game. And I was like, get out, like hurry up and get out so I can like fix this. Now, doesn't that suck when you're like in a place with yourself where you're like, I need to fix this?
Yeah. And then knowing that you're growing a baby girl, and knowing that the last thing you want in the world is her to feel that way, and how challenging that must, the dialogue that goes on in your head back and forth between, I don't want my daughter to feel this way, and I'm feeling this way, and she's in my body, and
she can feel this energy.
Yeah. And how to reconcile those things. And I'm curious, now that she's here and you're 3.5 weeks postpartum, has the conversation shifted now that she's here?
Kind of. I think I was more trusting. I don't even know if that's truthful. I think I was more trusting when I had Otis, because like so much of the weight just went away. And I also gained more. I gained like 10 more pounds with this pregnancy. So with Otis, I didn't start moving my body right away. And I think I waited like a week to start moving my body with her. And I will say I was like doing it under the guise of like, it's for my mental health. And I was like moving a little bit more aggressively than I think was necessary or appropriate for what my body had just been through.
Right.
And today I put my fingers between, because you get your abs separated. They have to, because you're making room for a baby. So I had been too scared to check because I didn't really have this issue the first time, and I can fit 2 fingers between my abs. And it feels loose. It feels wobbly. I don't love it. And so that was challenging. And I did have a little bit of a breakdown. I think I was like 4 days postpartum, and I was like, this is bazonkers. I was like crying to Greg. I was like, I look like a rectangle. And he was like, what? You're a beautiful rectangle. And I was like, nope, wrong answer. I still like, your uterus stretches out. Like you have a dinner plate size hole from where your placenta was. Like there's just so much going on. And I'm 3 or 4 days postpartum, and I'm crying because my body isn't back to normal. So it hasn't been perfect. That's for sure. Like right now, I don't know if this is good or bad. I'm wearing this, like, it's basically like I don't want to say corset, but like it's like a belly, like it's supposed to help with diastasis recti or whatever. Like it's supposed to help your like abs go back together. And I wore it after Otis, and it really did help. but it also feels kind of like weird.
Yeah. Like restrictive. Like, can you breathe?
A little bit.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I mean, the relationship, everyone has their own unique relationship to their body. And what I am appreciating about this conversation is just how real you're willing to be about it. And a lot of people will, and especially a lot of moms, I think, will be like, it's beautiful and it's a miracle. And it's just, and they don't want to actually face the real things that they're feeling about their body. And I think it's so important to talk about these things and share them and air them out, because there are two conversations going on. It's one, I want my little girl to never feel this, and two,
Yeah.
I am still in the process of feeling this. And especially when the narrative is coming from your mother around, kids ruining your body. And as females, we're so hyper conditioned to see our bodies as the one valuable thing, right? Beyond our smarts, beyond sometimes even what our face looks like, being beautiful. It's actually about the shape, the weight of our body. And I think maybe what people don't realize in the yoga profession, and certainly what Erin and I do when you're on camera all the time, there is a certain pressure that we feel, or that is placed upon us when our job is our body. And it certainly feels a little less intense maybe than it did when I was in the dance industry. But a lot of that the way I felt then, I did feel as I transitioned into the yoga world. And so when you're looking at your body every single day, like in tights on a screen, it is sort of the topic of a conversation that continues to sort of pop up. But you and I were the same age. And as we get older and older, it's like, what do you expect? Your body is not going to change or sag or wrinkle. And I'm starting to feel like the way I felt about my eating disorder as a teenager, the way I felt about my body is starting to be, it's creeping in the way I feel about my wrinkles or the way I feel about aging. And I'm like, this is what society does to women. If we know, if you've gotten over your eating disorder, well, guess what's next? Your fucking face and your crow's feet and your wrinkles. And the way I'm relating to aging is actually the same way I related to my body 20 years ago. And it's so insidious. And I feel like this year I really caught it, to be like, oh, okay, I might love my body now and be grateful for my body, but I have a new fixation. And it
just shifted north.
Yep, here it is, up here.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm really honest. Like I bought a Groupon when I was pretty drunk and 29 years old. And then the next morning I look at my email and it's like, you're 20 units of Botox, whatever. And I was like, you insecure bitch. What the hell? And so I was like, well, I'm not going to waste the money. So I started doing Botox when I was like 29, and I've been doing it religiously since then. And I only stopped when I was pregnant. So like watching my forehead is moving in this camera right now.
Same.
And I have shifted my obsession, or one of my obsessions, to my under eyes. And so I'm like, oh my God, I look so tired. And so one of my push presents to myself was going to be under eye filler. And then I'm like, well, that's a slippery slope. Like, and so I haven't decided whether I'm doing it or not, but it is something that if you look at my Google history,
yeah,
my Google history is just like a spider web map of all my insecurities.
I mean, that's everyone's history. I mean, I would like to now speak from the voice of a daughter who I would like to speak to you as the voice of a daughter whose mother is very beautiful. Okay.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
Okay. And I want you to hear this, because this is, Willa's going to, she was born and she was like, oh my God, cool outfit, girl. Like, I love what you've done with your hair. So as the voice of a daughter who's grown up with a really beautiful mother and who, it's always a comment, oh, your mother's so beautiful, she's so beautiful, she looks so young, and she's had some support and some help, has always made me feel like I needed to be as beautiful. And no matter what she told me, it was what she showed me. It was like, you're so
Mm.
beautiful, but I need to lose 10 pounds. I look so old. And we talk about this a lot, her and I, because she's still sort of like, but you're beautiful. What are you talking about? And it was like, it just didn't matter
Yeah.
because of the way I saw you speak about yourself, or the way you still, she's going to be 60, or she's 67 turning 68. And I was like, when does it end? And
Yeah.
I had a lot of anger around it in the summer. I went to go see the Barbie movie, or I don't know. And then I was crying, and I called her, and I
Oh
was just
yeah.
like, when does it end? And I was really mad, because I was like, here I am at, nearing 40 and doing all this stuff with my face, and seeing her do that at almost 70. And I was like, dad's not thinking about this shit. My brother's not
Right.
thinking about this shit. Um, it actually started to make me feel like a huge outrage. And part of this career, this said company that we worked for, we were on camera all the time. I'm not on camera in
Yeah.
the same way, which has
Yeah.
actually allowed me to stop fussing so much about my face, or needing to touch it, or fussing about my body. I just want it to end, because I don't want the trajectory to be eating disorder into face dysmorphia into whatever is
Totally.
next. And it just, yeah, it really pissed me off. And I'm still sort of in that piss off place of like, when does it fucking stop?
Yeah. And like, I was talking to my, it's so weird to call him my boyfriend, but he is, I guess. I was talking to my boyfriend. someone at the yoga studio heard me say that. They were like, were you just talking about your boyfriend? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, wow, you're so progressive. What does your husband think? And I was like, oh, no, that is him. We are not married. Yeah. I was talking to Greg about it, and he was just like, oh, I don't understand you. You love going against the norms. You love being unique. Like, why don't you just like say fuck it and like let it go and let yourself age? And I was like, so you think I'm letting myself go? Is that what you're saying? And but he's right. Like I don't want another kicking and screaming battle. And yet there's like inside of you is two wolves. One of them wants under eye filler. One of them wants to fuck the patriarchy. So it's like, it's just, yeah, I'm really split. And that's something that I think about, exactly what you're saying about your mom. The words are just going to bounce right off of her.
Yeah.
And that's like, someone asked me when I was pregnant, like, what do you want her to hear? Like, if you could tell her something, she's going to hear it when she's a teen and like really hear it. Like, there's literally nothing I can say. There's no amount of experience I can share with her or words I can give her. It will be how I regard her and how I regard myself.
Exactly. I say this all the time to mothers that send their kids to Girlvana. It's like,
Yeah.
what do I do? And what do I say? And I'm like, it's all about how you treat yourself and the respect you have for yourself, because they're watching from such a young age. And all the way, I'm still watching my mother, how she
Yeah.
interacts with my father, how she stands up for herself, where she lacks her boundaries. I'm watching, because that's the example. And we find other examples the older we get. Maybe there's someone else out there that's doing it the way that you want to do it, but it's all about the way you regard yourself. That's exactly it. And I think about that a lot. I don't have my own children, but I have many, many teenagers,
Yeah.
that look to me, and that accountability is everything to me. And yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, I think part of the reason why I want to leave LA too is like, I want to go see real faces and real people and
Yeah.
real women, and like get out of the wellness industry, and like I need some perspective.
Every time I came to LA, I like the anxiety I felt while packing. Like, there were so many like discussions about me moving there, and for me it just came down to, I don't feel good about myself when I'm there.
Yeah.
I feel less than, and I feel like I'm living in comparison, and that I know that is so unhealthy for me. It's unhealthy for anyone.
Yeah.
But like, that place just really really puts a magnifying glass on the physicality of it all. And
Yeah.
I don't want that for myself, and I don't want that for my kids. Because even like Otis, who's a boy, and I'm like, I didn't have any of these thoughts when I was pregnant. I wasn't like, what's he going to look like? Like,
Right.
is he going to be beautiful? Oh my God, what if he's not? What is he going to do? I fucking thought that about her. That's so messed up.
Yeah.
That's so messed up. And he's watching me and he's learning from me. He says shit sometimes where I'm like, Oh, you heard me say that?
Yeah, they are listening. But it's interesting because yeah, you're looking at raising a girl, and the currency. We have to figure out what our currency is. We have to figure out what
Yeah.
our exchange for power is. As a woman,
Yeah.
we are constantly contemplating, what can I exchange for power? Is it my
Yes.
beauty? Is it my intellectual property? Is it my, and we did that at the former company we're at. We exchanged
Yeah.
a lot of who we are for power, or for money, or for whatever. That's what life is. We have to find a way to um, survive as women, and
Yeah.
a lot of that, the currency has been taught to us that it is beauty, that it is body, that it is these things. And I think the older I get, the more, again, the outrage is there, and then it's like, well, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? And for me, it's like, get out. I want to get out of the industry to a certain degree. I want to get out of this city. I want to really face myself and the way I feel about aging. And I actually want to be an example for it. And it's funny because I haven't spoken publicly ever about Botox or what I do to my face or don't do to my face, but I have had Botox. You know this. I did take a big break. And as soon
Oh
as
my
you're
God, I was so annoyed. That was one of the most annoying like interactions with Allie when I first met her because she's so dewy. Are people gonna be able to see this? Are they gonna be able to see you? Well, they've seen a picture
yeah.
of you, whatever. They know what you look like. She's so goddamn dewy and just glowing. Like I put on so many lotions and potions before we got, and like I couldn't be more dry as the desert. And so we're talking the first day when I met her, and somehow all roads lead back to Botox, I guess. We end up talking about Botox, and she's like, "Oh, I don't do it." And this girl is my age, and she has not a line in sight. And I'm like, she sold her soul. She sold her soul to the devil. And that's the only explanation for why she looks the way she looks. And then it came out like months and months later that you were like, oh no, I took a break. And I was like, what? You had me over here like, I'm going to break into her house, see what products she used.
Yeah, my mom told me I needed to get Botox when I was 30. And I was like, okay, and I fought her so long about it. And then I thought, oh, well,
That's so interesting.
I do have this line between my eyebrows, and it does make me look angry.
Angry.
And
Angry.
I didn't want to look angry.
Not digestible, not
Yeah,
nice.
not nice. So I was
Angry.
like, if I could just get rid of this line between my eyebrows, then maybe I'll
Then
look less angry. And that was,
people will like me.
then people will like me. And so I was just doing that. I was doing that until I wanted to stop spending all of the money doing that. And I was like,
So
but
expensive.
so expensive. And then once your face starts moving again, and I can see in the line right now, there actually might be two. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
ooh, okay. I don't know if I like that. And do I look
Yeah.
different than I did, a year ago? And it's like the amount of time I was wasting on worrying about this thing just felt so stupid. And
And it's so
again,
stupid.
then I was mad at myself. Like, I'm letting all of my precious life force energy drain out into this one line between my eyebrows. Like, is this really my life right now?
I will
Yeah.
say, so I had the opposite experience. My mom is really beautiful, but
Yeah.
she did what you're talking about doing. So she was like, I'm tired of dyeing my hair. And she went fully gray. I think she stopped dyeing her hair when I was like in elementary school. And so she went all gray. She's never touched her face before, so she's got all the wrinkles, and she was just like, whatever, like this is how I look. And so she was kind of like pushing back against it in like a really aggressive way, which was like, this is natural. And while I respected that, people would say to me when she would pick me up from elementary school, like, why does your grandma pick you up?
Mm.
And I'd be like, I don't know. Like,
Be there soon, Granny.
Nana, get back in the car. So it was really embarrassing. And I remember being like really, because all my parents are older. My mom is in her mid 70s. My dad's in his early 80s. Like I remember feeling really embarrassed. And my friends' moms were like wearing leather pants and stilettos and like drinking wine. And my parents are like sober and old. And I was like, what a buzzkill. And so I think it's just so funny to watch the dance. of
Mm.
daughters and mothers. And you
Oh,
just do, it's like, if I do everything the opposite of way you did it, I'll do it right. And then she'll look at me and be like, I need structure. I
yeah.
need rules.
Yeah, 100%. It's always sort of going to be the opposite to a certain degree, and no matter what you do, they'll still sort of be the a rebel on some level. And it's
Yeah.
like, even if your mom didn't do those things and my mom did those things, we're having the same conversation about how we feel about the lines of our face. And I think so much of what kind of late stage capitalism and patriarchy does to us is it makes us individualize a problem. Like, oh, we must be
Yeah.
so bad and fucked up because we're worried about the wrinkles on our face. But it's like, no, society is presented this to us, and now we're all internalizing it and individualizing it. It's so funny. My mom's calling me right now. It's like her ears are burning. She's like, don't talk shit about me on your podcast. She can feel it. But we internalize it,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting why, I touch on eating disorder and body so much, because there's a lot of that I've healed, but now I'm seeing this, but I haven't been able to talk about it because I'm so glad we are, because I haven't been able to verbalize it because I'm embarrassed that I'm having this conversation with my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think also why I was so jealous of you when I met you was like, I say this to new teachers that I mentor, stop putting these mile markers that you need to meet before you do the thing. And so for me, I got into teaching because I wanted to like shout from the rooftops to every girl with an eating disorder, you don't have to live this way.
Yeah.
There's another way.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work with teen girls, and I wanted to do all these things. But then I was still having relapses with bulimia, and I was
Mm.
still trying to get back on my Adderall prescription, and like doing all of these things that I knew were inherently harmful to myself.
Mm.
And so I felt like this big fraud.
Yeah.
And so I didn't pursue these things because I wasn't healed. And it took me so long to like realize like, oh, okay, a lot of healing happens in relationship. Like that whole
Yes.
like idea of like, how are you going to love somebody else if you can't love yourself? Like, ugh, that's terrible. Way to shame someone who's already having a hard time. But I think like now we've normalized the conversation
Yeah.
about not needing to be perfect, or like how toxic the wellness world can be. But I still think it's like you said, it's kind of individualized. Like it's okay for you. Like that
Totally.
outfit, you could pull that off.
You've
You
said
could
that.
pull it
You
off.
said that many times to me, including the white pants I had to wear at this photo shoot. You were like, "I love those for you."
Oh
I
my
was
God,
like,
you though look amazing. Oh, I don't want to wear them though.
"Yeah,
So, but that's like what we've done with all of the like, with all of the disordered eating and the body acceptance. Like, it's okay for everyone else. And we genuinely feel goodness for other people who are pushing back against
yeah,
or living in their body neutrality, but it's not
not okay for
okay.
us." Yeah, yeah,
No, because
yeah,
that would be a failure. That would be giving
yeah,
up.
yeah,
So I think that's like, I do feel like a hypocrite, and I think that's like my teaching style that I developed was to just tell the truth.
yeah.
The nonviolent communication teacher that I love, um, Judith Hanson Lassiter, she's so brilliant. She says the greatest mantra and the only mantra that you'll ever need is tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. And it's something I think about all the time because it takes so much pressure off of um, needing to like meet this certain bar in order to do this certain thing.
Yeah.
I can just show up.
Totally. Yeah. And it's something that that I love so much about you. And I think the way I feel, in this industry so many times is just the falseness of it all. And I think, especially with new teachers too, we see it. And I was certainly that when I started, it was like, oh, now I have to be perfect. If I'm going to teach, I'm going to have all of my issues resolved so I can teach and people can trust me. And what I
Mm.
realized, in what you're saying is, especially when I started Girlvana, it was like, oh, if I just tell the truth to girls, because girls, the bullshit detector in teenagers is so
Yes.
high. So I would go in, and teach at high school, like teach yoga classes at high school and be like, yoga is this and blah, blah, blah. And it just wasn't hitting until I said, hey,
Yeah.
I was bulimic for half my life and I've always
Yeah.
been at war with myself and I'm learning how to love myself. Yoga is helping me do that. And then all of a sudden, there was a big connect for these teens, and things started to really move. And then what happened was there was this bigger accountability within me of who I wanted to be for them that allowed me to get up and out of a lot of these patterns, because I knew that a lot of them were now watching. And so that's sort of how the way I sort of view it. And that's why I'm excited about this conversation of aging, is like, we know as teachers, it's like, tell the truth and go first. So I'm going to say, okay, this is how I feel about my face today. Let's have the conversation and sort of slowly kind of move inch by inch through it, instead of pretending that I am good with it. I'm not good with it right now.
Yeah.
Just the way I wasn't good with my body 15 years ago, so I know that there's healing and it's all possible, but it's not possible until you tell the truth about it.
And I also think that there's a certain like disappointment that I have to get over sometimes when I find myself like I did in my pregnancy of like, God, how did I get here again? Or like just the like, didn't we already learn this lesson? Yeah. Can we file this one under done? Because I'm like super done with it. And I think it's important to acknowledge that like sometimes they can like pop their head back up and you're like, oh, okay. I guess I'm not like healed. And I'm sure it's been on like a million wellness memes of like healing is not linear. But I think just being honest about that, like, I would love to say that I've put my eating disorder to bed, but I can still see it popping up in certain ways and shifting north to these
the under eye to the
11s.
To the 11s.
If the 11s were the real displeasure at first, and now I'm like, you look like a basset hound. Get yourself together. Come on.
Basset hound. Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I first saw you. I was like,
right? I saw it in your eyes. I saw it in your eyes. You're like, oh, look at this little.
You know what's so wild though? Because when I go back and I look at pictures of myself with Botox and without, it's like, it's so subtle, but it's dysmorphia. It's the same way. It's like when you go and look at your body and you look in the mirror and it's like, oh, I needed to go, oh, I'm actually not a good judge for this. I don't trust myself here because it's so, Bill's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He can't see it. It does not exist. And for most people, I'm sure it doesn't. And the ones that care, if I have a wrinkle in between my eyebrow, I'm like, that's not who I want to be friends with anyways. So, it's a journey. It's a work in progress for sure.
I was just listening to this podcast. I think, oh my God, I'll be so embarrassed if I'm wrong. I think it was Socrates who said that we can never truly know ourselves, right? Because we have these blind spots, but we can more clearly see each other. And like, we can like look at and be like, wait, no, you're beautiful. You're perfect. And we have this inherent kind of dysmorphia with like our behavior, our worth, our bodies, like, and I think Socrates was like pretty way back when. So this has been going on for like a long time.
Yeah. I'm like, name that year, Erin.
It was in the 80s. Somewhere.
Yeah.
Or like, the BCEs.
What's your favorite album from Socrates? Name one album.
Name 3 Socrates quotes. Dare you. But it's so that's why it's so important to have these healthy relationships and to be in relationship in your work or in your whatever it is. These people that you touch into often need to be these healthy mirrors for you.
Totally. It's so, I so value our friendship and the friendships that we've kept through the work that we did together. And one of our friends this maybe a few months ago, and she said something like, she's my age or maybe 1 year younger than us. She was like, I just feel like I've aged out of teaching yoga. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's actually goes, that's the antithesis of the philosophy itself. We're only getting older and wiser. But the industry is such that there's going to be a 21-year-old life coach, right? Nipping at your heels, So, and I was a young teacher too. I know you were too. So I love seeing young teachers, but it's it was almost like she was pointing to, it's like, oh, it's time to go. Like our time is up. And I was like, I am just getting started. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I so value the women in my life that are 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ahead of us that are bringing just such deep, rich wisdom and knowledge. And we need that. We need our elders. You know, and I think there's something, it happened to me when I was 35. When I turned 35, something really shifted in me where I started to sort of mourn the quote unquote maiden identity. And I wanted to still be like young and hot and sexy and cool and, you know, and I was like, something's shifting in me and I actually don't want to go out and I'm tired and
Yeah.
my bones ache and like
Yeah.
my face is doing different stuff. And I felt it was like a year of just like being really uncomfortable. And it was George, actually, a friend of ours, that said, like, let her die. You have to let her go.
God, I love George.
I love them too. And I have been doing that and been in the process of that. And I think it happens maybe more immediate when you become maiden to mother, when you literally have a baby. But I think for me, when you're sort of at an age when you are childless, but at the childbearing age, it's sort of
Yeah.
like, oh, well then, you know, what is my value? I'm not mother, but I'm not maiden. Where do I exist? And that was just a weird zone for me. And now I feel like I'm stepping into my like wisdom and elderhood. And I'm like, joke's on all of you because I only getting hotter. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't relate to any of this. Like I'm mother, but I'm also maiden.
Yeah.
So I'm still this very like people are like they're like, you're a teen mom, like what's that experience like?
Yeah. They're like, how do you do it? Like people at the park think you're the nanny. I
That
know.
all the time. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, is the mother nice? And I'm like, she is. She's pretty benevolent. I was thinking about this conversation that I had because I used to take lifts like all the time. And you and I can talk to anyone like immediately. So anytime I'm in a lift, like, you know, we
It's
go
game
deep
over.
within
Yeah.
5 seconds.
You know
It's like,
everything.
you get out and you're like, Joan, good luck with the divorce.
Oh,
Like,
I'm giving a hug.
yeah.
I'm not
So,
hugging that person.
I'm in this minivan and I forget the woman's name. Lovely woman. She was probably in her 40s and she's doing Lyft while her kids are at school. You know, she's making a little side cash. And I don't even know how the conversation got there because it's so insane. But I was like, you know, something I'm afraid of is like, and this is such an awful thing to admit, but like something I'm afraid of is like the cat calls getting quieter. Like I'm not like I don't feel desired. I don't feel wanted and like it's supposed to be such a thing that we're like, ew, don't cat call me, but I'm like, what'd you say?
You're like specifically walking through construction sites. One more time.
Louder.
What?
And so she's like, you know, I will say that by the time the cat calls got quiet enough to where I couldn't hear them, I didn't want to hear them anymore. I was ready to not hear that anymore. And I've always thought about that, like that trust, having that trust in the timing of our lives and in the timing of our progression and getting this wisdom would be like, I'm ready for that now. Because even after having one kid, I would look at people with two kids and be like, oh, that looks terrible. And then all of a sudden I was ready for it and it didn't look terrible anymore. It actually was something that I desired.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm ready to stop hearing so many cat calls. Not all of them. Like
I'm like, you still are getting cat calls? Like I have not been called.
You've got to make sure that you're wearing something extraordinarily slutty.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was my question. Well, what were you wearing?
Yeah. Whenever I walk Willa, I make sure both booty cheeks are out.
I knew it. January in SF, the cheeks are out. I'm just picturing you like in like little gym shorts and like Ugg boots or something, walking down to the beach.
Like high school cross country track shorts, and I'm just like, I'll be back. We're gonna go for a walk by the construction site.
Mommy just needs to feel something, you know. I get it.
She just needs to feel that sensation, that rush.
Okay, no, we're coming to our time. It's felt like 5 minutes, but it's been 1 hour. And it's a question that I ask every guest, mostly just because I love to hear, because it's the
Mm.
most ineffable, sort of undescribable thing. And we get into these practices for many different reasons, yoga, breath work, meditation. And to me, what's always struck me about these practices is the idea that it connects me to something deeper.
Mm.
And you might call that God or source or universe or the divine. And I'm curious if you feel similar, or if you have a name for your own connection to something greater, and what that is, or how you describe that.
That's something I've been thinking about lately, and I don't have a name for it. Like I don't know what to call it, and it doesn't feel right. I call it the universe sometimes, and that doesn't hit right for me. God is too wrapped up in like the Catholic world I was brought up in.
Yeah.
So that's so funny that you asked that, because I'm like, I haven't put words to it,
Yeah.
and it's all of the words feel fraudulent coming out of my mouth. Divine, sacred, all of these things feel like I'm trying on someone else's clothes, or like I'm a deer in high heels. Like it's just like a bit awkward still. And I think maybe that's something worth looking at, because it keeps like tapping me on the shoulder of like,
Interesting.
yeah, what is this thing? And yeah, the only thing I could really like speak to would just be like, it's like this, the intuitive voice, or like the internal yes, the internal no, the like the thing we all have, and we've all abandoned from time to time, but like we're all searching to stay connected to, you know.
I love that. Yeah, this is why I love this question, because it's like, it's so hard to describe, but the way you just said that, like the internal yes, the internal no, the voice, the intuition, the thing that comes forward. And I'm curious, did it change after you had children?
I think when I was a younger teacher, I always had a hard time theming my classes and speaking from the heart, because I was like, what the fuck do I know? Like I was teaching to so many mothers and so many people who were older than me, and I was like, this must sound so silly coming from this 25-year-old. Like, what does she know about anything? And I think I've just like, over the past 13 years of teaching, I've rooted down more in what I have to offer. Yeah. And I think I've just felt much more connected to my power and my ability to create, because I look at and I'm like, this is crazy. How are you here right now? How do you exist? Like, and I've that astrologer we both, you follow Heidi Rose Robbins, right? She does the moon notes on Instagram.
Oh, I love.
Yeah. She did you see the post that she did that was like, create a title for your year? Oh, I loved it, because I've done the like picking a word.
Yeah.
But I really liked the way she phrased it. It sounded so beautiful. So I picked the year of anything can happen. And I think becoming a mother has helped me trust the uncertainty and like flip it around a little bit. And like, uncertainty is the other side of the coin of possibility.
Yeah.
There must be uncertainty. There must be unknown in order for there to be magic, in order for there to be possibility. So I think becoming a mother has connected me more to a sense of like deep internal trust of the possibility of life.
I love that. And I love just watching you with this sweet girl in her little outfit. She just, look at the way she's leaning on you. It's just
you mean
so
her
sweet.
little overalls? You mean her miniature baby overalls? Stop it.
It's too cute.
It's
I can't wait to meet her. I can't wait to meet her. I adore Otis, your son. I just think he's so sweet.
Oh my God. One last moment, I will say that I just truly wanted to murder you. We were coming up, I was in LA with Otis for the first time, and we were coming up the stairs. I don't even know how old he was. He was old enough to hold his own head up, but like, just going on full baby intuition. We're climbing up the stairs to go into where Allie is, and he sees her and he just reaches out to her and like leaps out of my arms to her. And I was like, oh no, I pushed him to do that. I wanted him to move from my arms to your arms in such a sudden and abrupt way.
He
And it was
felt
just,
it. He felt
he
the connection.
loved being in the Allie Maz embrace.
Aw. Well, I can't wait to hold Willa in the
I
Ali
know, I
Maz
can't wait for you
embrace
too.
soon, and then to name my daughter after her one day.
We don't know. We don't know if
They
she'll
don't
be a
know.
Billy. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll jump right over Willa and just go full Billy.
Yeah, or just Bill.
Because I think that would be very cool, girl.
Yeah. Where can people find you? Your work, your hilarious, insightful, deep wisdom you share on the internet. How can people connect with you?
Well, you could find my family flicker album on Instagram. It's just my name. It's just Erin Gilmore. And I do I've been doing it since the beginning of the pandemic. It's been a long ass time now. It's been like 4 years of doing these living room yoga classes. So those are all accessible through Instagram. I keep trying to do TikTok. It's not sticking. You're doing such a great job with TikTok.
TikTok is like, who the hell knows what anyone's doing on there. I give up and then I try again. And then I don't know. I posted one thing that hit not that long ago. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, so that was a thing. I don't know. It's just another thing you have to feed every day
That's
on
what
the
I
social
thought. I'm
media.
like, I don't have the bandwidth for this.
It's a lot.
The kids can have it.
Yeah,
You guys
it's a
can
lot.
have it. I don't want
It's
it.
a lot. Well, thank you for your time and your words and your
Thank you for having
honesty
me.
and your
I'm so
friendship.
excited about this. Yes, thank you for your friendship. I love you.
I love you. Yay.